obviously, if you need to direct a question at somebody else, we'll get them up on stage. Let's start with Jack Fenwick from the BBC.
Jack Fenwick, BBC News. A week ago, we didn't know that you'd be standing here announcing a new chairman. Parties led by yourself have had a number of rows and resignations over the years. Does that all need to end if Reform is going to be a credible party of government?
Rows and resignations? Yes, that's right. 7 chairmen since 2022 and 4 leaders. They're called the Conservative Party, and they're like ferrets in a sack. And, you know, people come and go in politics, but I think you'll find, if you look around, even in this room, there are people that have worked with me for 5 years, people in this room that have worked with me for 10 years, people in this room who worked for me for 20 years. People I employed back in the city, back in the 1990s, are still friends of mine. I am very, very loyal to people, all the while they're loyal to me. But in politics, it doesn't always quite work like that. And, I mean, you know, given the sins that were committed last week, look at my levels of forgiveness. The serious point is, yes, of course, what we have to do is to build a team as we go forward to the next general election. And that's going to have to be a very broadly based team. We're going to have, you know, effectively, as we go into the next election and before, you know, you're going to need to see who our potential Chancellor is. You're going to need to see, and I understand all of that, and that will happen as part of our evolution. Thank you very much. Adam Cherry, GB News.
Thank you. Can I just clarify the remit of the new chairman position? Is it mostly ambassadorial? Is David Bull, is his homework going to be marked by Zia Youssef and yourself? Does he have any sort of executive administrative function?
Oh gosh, that's all a bit too clever for me. It's perfectly clear what Zia's going to do. He's going to head up UK Doge. He's going to continue to help work on policy development, such as the crypto and digital assets bill that I launched at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. He'll go on doing media, as David said. You know, he's an excellent media performer, you know, wherever he is, whoever's questioning him. And he will also continue to help, as and where he can, raising money for the party. His roles and responsibilities are clear. I will be leaning on him to help us with some data things, stuff that he's done for us brilliantly in the past. David's job is not ambassadorial. David's job is inspirational. You know, for example, in Greater London alone, we have to find 1,800 candidates to fight those 32 boroughs that are up next year. We have to get them through a vetting process. You know, getting people to stand for election does take a bit of leadership, a bit of inspiration. It's something I've been doing a lot of over the course of the last year. David will play a very leading role in that. Plus, when you've got a voluntary party, you know, these people are giving of their own time and money, and they need, actually, someone to spend a lot of time going around and seeing them. There's no way that Zia and I could do as much of that as we'd like to have done, and David is going to spend a lot of time out on the road. It is a lot more than ambassadorial. Thank you very much indeed. Jack Elsom from The Sun.
Thank you, Nigel. Jack Elsom from The Sun. It's been clear for the past few days that Reform are not afraid to have some robust conversations about some of the big issues. So can I ask about another one? Because after the sentencing of the Southport killer in January, Lee Anderson and Richard Tice mooted bringing back the death penalty. Sarah Pochin said in the Runcorn by-election she would never support such a thing. So can I ask what your and the party's position is on that? Thank you.
These are issues of conscience, just as the assisted dying debate will be when it comes up on Friday, just as the abortion limit. These are all issues of conscience. Nothing on the death penalty will be part of party policy. I have to say, personally, I think given there have been 500 quite serious miscarriages of justice in this country since the early 1970s, I don't think I could ever support it, but I understand why others take a different point of view. Although I do think it's quite interesting that a younger generation coming through who seem to increasingly support the death penalty, and I suspect it will be back within the next decade as an issue of major national debate. Not quite yet, but it's coming. But certainly these things will not be party policy, far, far from it. Sam Coates from Sky News.
Nigel Farage, how important is it, how useful is it to have a new chairman who's got lots of experience on the telly?
Well, actually, very good. As you know yourself, having made the transition to being a TV star. And I even think, Sam, you might have bought 1 or 2 new suits, although they're still crumpled. And I think message delivery and simplicity of message in politics is very important. I mean, sit and watch Question Time. You know, hear the first question to the minister or the shadow minister. They'll give a 90-second answer. Nudge the person next to you and say, what did he or she just say? And they'll go, can't quite remember. So clarity of message, message delivery, getting people to understand what you're saying, even if they disagree with it, is vital. And I think David's got more experience than all the rest of us in doing that. And I think that really, really does matter. Carl, ITV.
Thank you very much. Carl Dinnan, ITV News. I just wonder where you stand on Sizewell C and whether or not your government, the government that you would head, would put billions of pounds into nuclear power, or would you prefer coal?
You know, we need coal in small quantities for specialist reasons, and we should mine our own and not import it from Japan and Australia. But that is quite different to reopening every coal-fired power station in Britain, although I think it was moronic to close down Ratcliffe, the last one, which is a very useful backup. Absolutely moronic thing to do, but then from Ed Miliband, what would you expect? The arguments being made this morning in favour of Sizewell are remarkable. We're being told that it's carbon zero energy and that it gives us constant energy. Yes. So how can the government on the one hand argue for that and on the other argue for a massive increase in intermittent renewables whose energy doesn't fit our national grid system? And it's very interesting that on May the 29th, we were once again a whisker away from the lights going out in this country. And we've had several days this year where we've had to import over 20% of our electricity. This is the lunacy that we were taken into. Boris Johnson, you know, the Saudi Arabia of wind, that being carried on. We are, as a party, pro-nuclear. We think ultimately, if you do want to reduce carbon emissions, it is the only way, frankly, to do it. I would just make 2 points. One being that both Hinkley and Sizewell are a pretty outdated model of nuclear reactor. First point. And the second point, it's remarkable how much nuclear energy costs in this country compared to other countries in the world who can do it at a half or maybe even a third of the price. I'll talk more about that over the course of the next week. Thank you very much indeed. Caitlin from PA.
Thank you. Yesterday when you were speaking at Port Talbot, you said that Mr Yousaf's resignation plunged your party into a difficult place for a few hours. Do you have confidence that that is not going to happen this time? And if not, have you made any changes to ensure it doesn't?
Yeah, we've locked him in a room. He can't do it again. Look, you know, I mean, have you ever made a mistake in your life? And the more people work under pressure, and, you know, in mistake, you know, one tweet these days, and suddenly the whole world looks different and looks terrible. I think it's very unlikely that Zia, who is a very diligent person, will do that again. Will we never, ever, 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 ever again have someone say or do something stupid? Of course we will. It's life. It's human beings. And, you know, people's faults and people's virtues, I think, are magnified in politics compared to business and many other walks of life. David Wilcox, Daily Mail.
Thank you, Nigel. Just wanted to talk about donations. The new figures for the first quarter out today showing Reform struggling a little bit to bring money in that isn't donated by Richard Tice and a few other close figures. Are you worried that the money still isn't coming in? Is Nick Candy's job safe as Treasurer, and would you like to see him donate the balance of his £1 million that he promised?
How do you compare the donation figures with the previous quarter?
Not off the top of my head.
You're the Daily Mail, not me. I mean, surely you know the facts, not me. I think you'll find it's like a tenfold increase. So are our figures about the same as the Lib Dems for Q1 and behind Labour and Conservatives? Yes. Are they significantly higher than the 2 previous quarters before? Yes, they are. So the trend is in the right direction. It is taking time. As for the slight, at Nick Candy. Well, he's only given you £313,000. Can I just put on the record, I'm very grateful, Nick, for the £313,000 that you've given us, and you tell us that actually there's going to be another £250,000 coming over the course of the next few months, and I'm extremely grateful. Is it easy to raise big money in politics? Well, it's not, because I haven't got any peerages to give. Oh, sorry. Because that's the way it's been working for decades. I mean, the honours system is corrupted beyond belief. We don't have any gongs to give out. But am I confident? Am I confident that we're building the kind of relationships that will lead to really serious donations? Yes, but let's just be clear. You know, we have been funded predominantly by men and women in this country paying their 25 quids or 50 quids or whatever it is to be members of this party, and that's where the bulk of our revenue comes from. And of course, when you see the Electoral Commission reporting, as you did this morning, that's only reportable donations over £11,500. So, look, do we need to raise a lot of money? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it going to be a big task to catch up with the vast amounts of money that Unite and the GMB give the Labour Party? Yeah, you know, this is going to be a big challenge, but I will immediately after this be off to see Nick Candy for another donor lunch. Tony Diver from The Telegraph.
Thank you. Can I ask a bit more about your staffing plans and the shadow cabinet? When you're looking for people to join your party and be spokesmen for these issues, will you be looking for former Conservative ministers who've got some experience serving in government when you're pitching to the voters? And if I may, Kemi Badenoch has said that she would let bosses ban the burqa, and she's also backed mass deportations of foreign criminals going...
Oh, wow, I say she is moving, isn't she? Gosh.
She's gone further on both of those issues, arguably, than you have. Is it possible that she is more right-wing than you?
Well, most people are more right-wing than me. I mean, I'm a socialist, after all, given our family policy. Look, it doesn't matter what Kemi Badenoch says, no one's listening. No one's listening. No, I'm not joking. No one's listening. The country is not listening to what she has to say, does not take what they say seriously. I even saw Jenrick the other day say we're going through economic and societal breakdown. I mean, perhaps I'll lend in my clothes next, you know. But no, look, no one takes them seriously at all. As for people who come to join us from the Conservative Party, well, most of them did a pretty rotten job. If there are some that did a good job, then yes. Obviously, the same principle would apply. We're being a bit hypothetical here, but the same principle would apply as applies in the local councils. We have lots and lots of newbies going into these county and unitary authorities, but we also have people that have been there before, without which it would be difficult. So yes, we will need some people who've got real experience of how government works and real experience of how perhaps it might be tricky at times to do battle with the civil service. So yeah, we want people who are experienced, but we want people who join us for the right and not the wrong reasons. James Hill, Spectator.
Thank you, Nigel. At the end of April, you said that there'd be more detail on your deportation policy within 3 to 4 weeks. Can you just give an update of when that is going to be published?
Yeah, we've looked and thought, Zia and I both have looked and talked about this at very great length. We've looked at draft paper after draft paper. Frankly, been completely overtaken by events. Completely overtaken. The first sentence I uttered today was, we are running fast to try and catch up. May the 1st, getting these new councils in place, working out new branch rules, etc. We've been completely overtaken by events. Is that a work in progress that will come sooner rather than later? It is. Is it a bit behind? Yes. Lucy White, Bloomberg.
Hi, thanks, Nigel. Zia was very popular with some of your more business-minded supporters. Do you believe that David's going to have the same appeal, and might he be open to criticism that you're taking a more sort of Trumpian line given his TV experience?
Well, I can't talk about David's appeal, obviously. I mean, that's up to it's all in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. I think the point is we're building a broad team. You know, we're broadening the leadership base and the management base of the organisation. There's no particular reason why business people would take umbrage at Dr. David Bull. Who knows? Having somebody inside that's been a hospital doctor might actually be a very useful thing when it comes to answering questions about the National Health Service and the deficiencies within it without people screaming that we want to make people pay £150,000 for a hip operation, which appears to be what the Labour line machine is roughly saying at the moment. So, you know, it's going to be a broadly based team. We now have a qualified doctor as a senior member of our management team, and we have Sarah, who's been, as you know, a magistrate for 20 years, 12 years in the chair of that, and we are beginning to build out a much more broadly based party, and that will appeal, you know, individuals will appeal more to some sections than others. I'm not concerned about that. Will Hazel from the Eye.